arrays, iterating. So we start off with this array. We're going to call it numbers, and we're assigning it array value of 0 to 9. And we've got this variable here, sum, and we're assigning that 0. And we're going to use the .each method on this array of numbers. And we're going to pass that array this thing called a block. And this thing here, these curly braces, represents one way of writing a block. And all this stuff are the internals of the block, right? And I haven't gone into blocks in detail. We'll do that later when we get down to blocks and procs down here at 8. But for now, just kind of follow along. So we got this .each method, and again we're passing it an array inside of the block. And if you want to look up .each just out of curiosity, you can open that sucker up in RubyDoc. Excuse me, that's my phone going off. And here, I've already looked them up. Actually, I'll show you how to look that up actually. So, okay, so we've got this new method. We don't know what the heck this method is, right? I'll look it up. We see this this method in some snippet of code, and we find out what the deal is. Oh, I already got it. Duh. Forgot. Okay, so let's each. Okay, there we go. All right. And we're passing an array into it. So let's see. And then we can kind of like get some idea of what this thing does by looking up the documentation, the Ruby documentation. Okay, so let's switch back here. All right, so the way this works is that this is like a little machine, okay? Each element in the array, numbers.each, is fed into this machine. And we see that we have numbers here, right? So this is kind of like connected to this. So like imagine like there's this circular machine thing here that's feeding each one of these little elements in. And what's happening is for each element, like for instance, this is 0, right? So this becomes 0 for the first one. And then inside of the machine, these two are connected here. So when this value changes, this value changes. So then this becomes, oops, get over there. So then this becomes 0, right? And we already know that sum is equal to 0 because that's how we first assigned it. So now what's going on with this right here? Okay, this is one of the operators, and this is like this means equals. So this is assigning from this side to this side. So assigning that value over to this side. So imagine like this. If I can animate this, this 0 is moving in this direction over. So it's being assigned and then added to whatever the value is over here. So initially that's 0, right? So this value is the value that gets returned outside the block, right? So the first one goes through, it's going to be 0. And can use our trusty hash market to see that. First, let me put these guys back. Yep. Okay, so oops, yeah, well, I don't want to show all of them all. I would go through 45. So let's just do magic. I'm going to delete all these guys real quick. Go through these and actually kind of see what's happening. So 0, right? Okay, everybody's 0. Then straightforward. But what if we do 1? Let's go to the next guy. Okay, so let's do that for 1. So Now, this ends up becoming 1. This was initially 0. And then this becomes 1 because it grabs its value from this one. And then now the 1 is moved over and added to the 0. And then this value that's added gets returned, right? So then this moves over, is added to 0, and then we should expect this to be 1. So let me undo those. So we can actually see that. And Command R. Okay, so 1, right? So now this sum is now 1, and if we go to the next one, 2, it'll do 2, right? So this goes down to each one, right? So the num becomes 2, sum is 1, num is 2, number is 2. 2 is now added to 1, and then this, we should expect this to be 3, right? 3. So now sum holds the value of 3. And if we go down to 3, it'll be 3 plus 3, right? Follow? So now we're doing numbers at 3. This becomes 3. That's 3. This is already 3 because of the previous calculation. So then it's 3 plus 3. And then that should become 6. So let's do Command R. Oops. See, number, okay, I think we got a typo on here. So number, so 1, 2, 3, number, sum, number, 3, let's put that again. 6, okay, all right. So now sum holds this value every time we do this iteration, right? Every time we run the mechanism. So we have 4, 5. So imagine we do, well, we're gonna go all the way to 9. So let's do 4, right? So then it's number becomes 4. Sum is 6, and then it's 6 is assigned plus 4, right? So 6 plus 4, that should be 10, right? 10. And then sum holds that 10 value. We do 5, and then it's 10 plus 5, right? 15. And then 6, there's 6 plus 15, right? Because remember, 15 is still sum. Then 6 equals plus 15. So it's 15 plus 6, 21. Right? And 7 plus 21, 28. 8 plus 28, 36. And finally the last one, 36 plus 9, 45. Excuse me. So you can see we can see how that little machine works. All right, so on to this next one, because I got all the other ones commented out because I don't want stuff appearing at the bottom and be distracting. So here we got squares, and we're using another method called map, and we're going to change up the innards, the inner machinery of the block that we're passing to the map method. Here we do a number times number. And if you want to look up what map is, we can look that up in ViviDoc. We can Hunt for that sucker. Map. See? Okay, so we have map, but then we have all these different kinds of maps and whatever that it is that you're passing into it. So let's see, we have an array, map enumerator, and let's see, is this the same one it was before? So let's go back. Map. Oh, wait, let me get rid of those. Map, okay. Map. You can see map enumerator turns a new array with the results of running block once for every element in the enumerator. So what the heck does that mean, right? Well, let's see. So let's see, I'm going to uncomment this one here so I get squares, my trusty little hash rocket, and I do Command R. I'm just going to go through each one of these suckers and do this multiplication machinery calculation. All right, so okay, so now we can see what's happening here, right? It's giving us back not just the one value, like you see before we just got back the value of sum, right? But it's actually giving us back an array, and the array contains at each iteration, at each element, going through each one of these elements, each iteration, the calculation, the result of number times number. I'm going to say number cross number, but number times number. Back from the physics days. So let's see what. Let's undo this real quick. What would happen if we did just the same thing we did before, right? So we had, let's say, number. What's that? Plus equal. Something like, what would be the difference here if we did? Actually, like ran that, for instance. No. Actually, let me do this. Let me not change that. Let me get that. Okay, so hang on. What if? So clear that out. So hang on. Oops, I had no space there. Comment those guys out. Let's see, what if we did this? What if we said, instead of dot each, we did map up here? What the heck would that give us? 45. Oh, duh. Oh, no, yeah, okay, yeah, so 45. Oh, interesting. Okay, so numbers.map. If we try to map this, it's just going to give us 45. That's because this whole machinery is just outputting all of these suckers, going through all of them, and then outputting the last result, which is sum. So if we do something like this, yeah, that should still be 45, I think, right? So, because again, it's just running through all these suckers, right? And it's given command, the hash rocket is giving us, hey, I'm use squares. So let's see, okay, if we squares, what should that give us? It should still give us, there we go. Okay, so it's give us the actual result of doing the map. So here we can actually see the result of actually that individual calculation that we did by hand earlier, right? So 0, 1, 3, and on to 45, right? So now we see what dot map does. What dot map does is it gives you the resultant array of each calculation that you did earlier in that block, right? At the top. And we saw that when we actually did it by hand. But here you can actually see, okay, this is what's actually happening inside this block at each calculation, right? Versus just returning the sum value, which is what we had earlier down here, right? Which is sum, right? This is 45, right? Yeah, so cool. That sounds groovy, and we can run that sucker, right? And we compare that to our original guy. Right, the original value. This guy's up here, right? Let's see. So let's see. Result equals empty array. That's another way to just write it, right? Just empty array. There's two different ways of writing arrays too. I can't remember if I went over that. You say array dot new. Actually, I think that should be capitalized. Yeah, array dot new or just with the two brackets of array. Iterate over the array 2 at a time. So what's happening here is we got each slice. So it's going through the array 2 at a time. So it's grabbing 2 of these suckers. So here we got 0 and 1, right? So imagine 0 and 1 are A and B. And then that result gets A and B becomes this is a new array, and that array gets funneled into this, shoveled into or shifted into the value of result. So the first time is going to be 0, 0, and then we should see the next group should be 2, 3, and then 4, 5, and then 6, 7, and then 8, 9. Excuse me. And so it should be. I think it should be should be like a nested array, right? Like this one big array with a bunch of 2-element arrays inside of it. Yeah. So yeah, let's uncomment our result hash market and run it. And yeah. And this is what we got going on. So we got each one of these suckers coming out to array at a time. It's kind of like dot map, in that it shows you each calculation and returns that inside of an array. And this next one, each cons. Now again, it's like we see some strange method, and we were like, what is that? I've never seen it before. Where can I look that up? Documentation to the rescue. Yay. And pop that sucker in there. I'm like, okay, so that's what I get some idea of what the heck's going on. Sometimes, this is, of course, this documentation is very good. But sometimes their wording is, if you're new to programming, you're like, what the hell are they saying? But anyway, iterates the given block for each array of consecutive in elements. Like, what's in elements mean, right? If no block is given, it returns an enumerator. Well, in elements is just like how whatever the number is. It's just some like goofy way of saying like how many ever things you've got, right? So 1 through 10 dot each. And we've got this range is with the 2 dots here, right? Notice the 2 dots versus 3 dots. But anyway, dot each cons and passing that block and working on that for each three of those elements. So let's see what happens. And also same thing with slice. On top, you can add a new slice. Check out slice and see what this guy says. So yeah, slice. That's nice. And some information on that. But anyway, so let's see what happens here. So now we got each cons 2 at a time, and same internal setup here for this block that we've got for the block above it, right? Yeah. So let's see what that result is. Let me uncomment that results with the hash rocket and run him. Aha. Okay, so we can figure out what this method does. Here's each group as we go, and it's iterating over the array in groups of 2, just like the last one. So here we get 2, so the first 2 come through, 1, 2, and then that gets fed in, and then the next consecutive. Okay, the cons must be short for consecutive. It's 1, 0, and then so it's 1, 0, and then 1, 2, and then 2, 3. So it's like it's linking them together, like a linked list thing. So it's like it's linking them together. So it's like it's each one is connected by the last one. So again, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, and then 6, 7, and on. So it's like it's linking them all together, like whoever the value is at the last one. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, cool. So, all right. Anyway, so that's iterating. You can see that you have an array, and then there's all these different methods. Some methods that exist in Ruby that you can use to iterate through arrays, and you can see the idea of a block and creating some machinery, some internal machinery to manipulate that element of the array and get the output, etc. And we've gone over into RubyDoc and figured out how to look up methods and understand some things and some arrays and hunt out information to figure out the meaning of a method and find out some new methods along the way as you're digging into the documentation, because I by no means have every single aspect of Ruby in this tutorial, but the point is to give you a good idea. So we're right in the labs and we get to Rails. Excuse me, Ruby on Rails. You'll understand enough Ruby to get stuff done, right? To be dangerous and not be totally confused. All right, so on to the next one.